So I want to begin with a question, as I like to do. How did you meet your spouse, your partner? College. How many we have from college? All right, that's a spot. And the 13-year-olds, it's fine that you don't know. So that's fine. How many in graduate school? Anyone in graduate school? Okay, there you go. I'm glad you both raised your hands at the same time. That just confirms things. How many were set up or introduced by a friend? Okay, got a few of those. Anyone? What about the internet? Any websites? Yeah. Okay. Did I skip high school? Okay. High school. Now it's going to get awkward. Junior high or elementary school? All right. You guys win. What are we missing? At work. All right. Not quite as exciting. At a bar. At a bar. All right. There we go. Summer camp. Wait, you guys met at two places? All right, there's lots of options here. It's getting late, so I'm gonna hate to cut anyone off. You can share a kiddush. So I was speaking with a couple of 30-year-olds, and we were talking about weddings and meeting people. And I told them that by far the greatest number of people that I've worked with have met on internet dating sites, by far. In fact, about 3/4 of the people whose weddings I've officiated at over the last 20 years met on this one website on JDate. And when I mentioned JDate, they looked at me as if I were trying to explain a rotary phone. And they told me nobody uses that. We all just swipe on our phone. I looked at them a little confused, thinking that the swiping apps were for, how shall I put it, like a less than serious long-term relationship. But it turns out I was wrong, that these apps on your phone like Hinge or Tinder or JSwipe actually have produced many relationships and many marriages. Apparently, you see the person's picture, there's a profile, and if you like them, you swipe right. If they like you, you swipe right, and boom, it's a match. Now, here's a big shocker. The Torah doesn't know anything about apps. Just want to put that out there. But it does realize the importance of finding a mate. And this week, we have the classic narrative, as Matea mentioned, of finding a partner for Isaac. Now, as in much of Jewish history, the finding a mate was left to your parents. Your parents were in charge of this, and you went along for the ride. But like many things have gotten outsourced these days, sometimes you could outsource it in those days. And Abraham decides he's outsourcing it to his chief servant, Eliezer. And Eliezer is sent to the land where Abraham grew up to find Isaac's wife. He makes a long journey from the land of Israel all the way across to the land of Aram Naharaim, to the city of Nahor, kind of southeast Turkey. And that's the place where he stops at a well, and he prays that if he asks a young woman for a drink of water at this well, she will offer him water and water for his camels. And then Eliezer will know that this person is the right match. Sure enough, like a great rom-com, Rivka immediately shows up. And Eliezer asks her for water. She says, "Shte Adoni," drink, my lord, and he does. Now, there's a little mini suspense. It's not as good as most rom-coms, but there's a little suspense because at first she doesn't offer anything to the camels. But after Eliezer drinks, no longer thirsty, he's done, Then she offers to water the camels, ad im kilu lishtot, until the camels are fully satiated. And just in case you're wondering, that's not a small task, as our Chumash points out. Apparently, camels can drink something like 25 gallons of water after a long trek. 10 camels, you do the math. It's easy math. It's just 250 gallons. Anyway, that's a lot of schlepping. She goes above and beyond this character test, revealing the chesed, the kindness that she possesses, not merely towards others, but towards animals. As Mayer Sternberg writes in his book, The Poetics of Biblical Narratives, Rebecca's actions dramatize a single point, that the young woman's performance surpasses even the most optimistic expectations. Now, today I want to add a fact that I never really noticed in the text. While Rebecca is bringing all this water back and forth to Eliezer's camels, the Torah says, "Va'ish mishta'ela macharish ladat," which our translation in our Chumash says, this man, the man, Eliezer, stood gazing, silently wondering. And it's a verse I've never really thought about. What's exactly the point of his gazing so intently? First of all, why doesn't he help? But apparently, if you're like a guest, you're just kind of, But what is he wondering about? What's he thinking about? And I think Eliezer is standing there really taking in this moment, truly noticing what's going on. He's taking interactions, observing this act of kindness, which some might not focus on so intently. Now, the word mishta'eh is a really unusual word from the root shin aleph hey. And even if I ask our native speakers here, this root with the hitpael form, for you fans of Hebrew grammar, is not used that much in the Tanakh and the Hebrew Bible. In fact, it's a hapax legomenon for you friends of the Hebrew Bible. This is the only place this word is used. Now, at its core, the root shin aleph hey means to crash or to devastate. But in its reflexive form, it means, I guess, to crash into yourself. And so what does that mean exactly? What is he doing? It means that he's somehow struck by her presence, I would suggest. Perhaps it's her beauty, which is mentioned, or perhaps he's really taking in her behavior, really seeing who she is at her core. Sometimes we don't really notice people. We don't really take the time to focus on them and see who they are or what they're going through. We may be simply on the phone texting, as I sometimes slip into when someone's talking to me. Or we might be swiping through our Instagram feed. Here the Torah emphasizes that Eliezer was taking in what he was seeing and wondering really deeply if this could be Isaac's match. And it's her small act of kindness that makes all the difference. Little things matter. Her awareness of his needs and the needs of the animals forms his perception of her. She's not only this beautiful young woman, but a person who embodies the values of hospitality, of kindness, of gemilut chasadim, of good deeds. Now, later in the story, we see the same awareness when Isaac and Rebekah then meet for the first time. The Torah emphasizes how Rebekah sees him. Isaac apparently is walking in the field towards evening, lasuach basadeh, kind of taking a stroll as the sun is setting. But the root of this word, lasuach, is connected to the word sikha, a conversation. He's speaking with someone, but there's no one there. He's walking alone. So who is he talking to? Perhaps in the reading, we're getting a sense of Isaac being a person of sensitivity. He's talking to himself, maybe the Kabbalistic notion of hitbodedut, when you say your prayers and thoughts and feelings out loud. He's engaged in some kind of meditative walk, appreciating the beauty of the world at the time of sunset. And then Rebecca notices this. She lifts up her eyes, taking him in, watching him, appreciating his core, his soul. And then once they meet, the Torah says, Vaye'ehaveha, and he loved her. This is the first mention of love between two partners in the Torah. Parental love is mentioned before, but we never hear until this moment of people falling in love. And it makes sense because these people are presented in the Torah reading as people who care about the little things. And we can see how much they then care for each other. Noticing the small things about another person can lead to love. I was reading a quote this week from David McCullough's book, Mornings on Horseback, about President Teddy Roosevelt. He's described like this: walking beside him on the White House grounds one spring morning, she watched him stop, stoop, pick up, and examine a minute feather, which he held between his thumb and forefinger. He said, very early for a fox sparrow. Somehow he's both aware of this subtlety in nature, and he's being watched with that same appreciation. While our society seems to move at an ever faster and faster pace with these quick swipes, there are benefits to living a more contemplative life that allows us to see the small things that can make all the difference. Subtle behaviors and all of the details of the world can open us up to deeper feelings and a richer appreciation of others and of nature. It may not be easy to slow down and notice these smaller acts, but they can make all the difference. They may even open us up to love. Shabbat Shalom.